first started stealing aged 10 as an accomplice to my brother. Harvey was, still is, 3 years older and much bigger than me. So in the beginning, he'd used me to distract shop assistants while he worked his way along the shelves, filling his pockets. We'd enter separately, by different doors if possible. I'd go first, I'd ask for something they obviously didn't have, chat idly, then eventually buy something small. I'd stand there trying to find change for my packet of chewing gum or whatever, being friendly and clueless and winsome, while behind me, Harvey pocketed sweets, magazines, soft drinks and bars of chocolate, not crisps, which were considered too noisy and bulky. I'd get a percentage of the spoils for my part in the deception, but I would have done it for nothing. Like every kind of crime, misdemeanour or rule breaking I've ever tried, it made me feel clever and daring and strong. It made me feel good. I started taking little things myself, just to see if I could. I was slight and small and pale. In fact, I looked as though I'd just recovered from a life-threatening disease, like one of those translucent leukemia kids who dispense beyond their years wisdom on daytime hospital dramas. I wasn't bald, but I had a blonde crew cut that made me look half thug, half seraph. It seemed to work in my favour. Harvey let me do a lot more of the actual nicking after he realised how good I was at it, how much less likely to attract suspicion, and he was right. I never got caught. Well, except once, and then I was lucky. Unlike Harvey. It was the mobile that shocked me. Previously, we'd only stolen from the faceless shops on the high street, the sort where the theft of a few items here and there could really make no difference to the survival of the store in the long run, where shrinkage of stock was just another element to consider in the annual profit forecast. But the mobile phone was not in its shop package. It had belonged to somebody, had been used and programmed and personalised by some proud owner. And no doubt it was being mourned by the kid as his horrified parents berated him for his carelessness. This was bad. This was real. Someone left it on the table at Burger King, shrugged my brother when the police asked him about it. But it didn't wash. I hope the owner got it back in the end. Mobiles were a much bigger deal in those days, which was probably why Harvey decided to steal one for his new girlfriend, Sonia. Because of his age and the value of the other stuff that was found on him, Harvey went to juvie. His hearing and trial dragged out long into the summer, and essentially that fucked his exams. Our mother developed high blood pressure and started having fainting spells. Our father resigned from the Masons, which was a surprise to me and Harvey, as we never even knew he was a member. Our maternal grandparents, Baptists of some sort, stopped visiting. From the great white hope of the family, handsome and clever and good at sport as he was, Harvey had become the black sheep. I didn't steal so much as a paperclip from the day he went to the day he came back. I was too scared. Instead, I kept my head down, I worked hard for my GCSEs and stayed well away from girls. When Harvey returned home, he was changed, hardened and polished, like a conker soaked in vinegar and tempered in the oven. He learned the right things to say to the police, to the judges, to his fellow criminals. He smoked roll-up cigarettes and had won himself a scar in the rec room fight over use of the pool table. I admired him unutterably. He took me out shopping and showed me a few new tricks. He needed various things, but he couldn't nick them himself because he was known to the police. Once you know, you're fucked, he told me over Big Macs in the precinct. They'll put you in, even if you haven't done anything. You don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. So I had to get the things for him, and I did. And what was I supposed to do? He was my brother. I still looked young for my age. I hadn't taken anything for nigh on a year. It was like I'd never stopped. It was so easy. Harvey opened his backpack to receive my stolen goods, zipped it up, and gave me a hard squeeze of a handshake. Laters, he said. He was back inside a month after, this time for joyriding. His new girlfriend was into cars. I sat my A-levels, I went to university. We saw each other intermittently during the spells of mutual freedom. We were both, in our own different ways, getting worse. For me, thieving was like a weird, addictive frenzy. I did it not because I wanted the things I stole, or needed the money I could sell it for, but because I could. Just because I could. At Bristol, I was a one-man crime spree. The whole of residents had never seen anything like it, and it was assumed there was a gang working the corridors. Not so. I sold almost everything as soon as I had it, and never kept anything that could be easily identified. I bought rounds in the bar, held parties in my room, always had plenty of drugs and told everybody my parents were rich. To the girls I wanted to sleep with, I'd also let slip my brother was in prison. That his experience had scarred us both for life. That as soon as I'd finished my degree, I was either going to join the police force or become a lawyer and fight crime. By this time, I'd learned to want girls, to like them even, but not to trust them. My brother's girlfriends had all, without exception, fucked him over somehow. I wasn't going to let that happen to me. I treated them politely, charmingly, but with suspicion. I never let them stay the night. Maybe that's why they liked me. I didn't have the grades to do a law conversion course in the end, and that's another reason I became a copper. Oh, and this. I did something very, very bad when I was at university. Admittedly, it was out of fear, but it wasn't forgivable. I thought maybe if I shaped up, stopped stealing and joined the police, I'd be able to atone for it. Because there was no way I could have ever admitted it to anyone. Except Harvey, of course. Maybe. There was this kid on our hall, Manny, a thin streak of nothing. Not much to look at, kind of hyper. He was doing maths or engineering or something, and had a lot of speed on the side. He was the dealer for our year because, although I knew where to get the best stuff, I didn't want to get my hands dirty. Long story short, he bought some coke off me, which was from a batch I knew and had warned him was strong. He sold most of it on, and a good time was had by all. But one night, just before the first year exams, while pulling an all-nighter, he decided to give this pure stuff a try, and for whatever reason, his heart packed in and he died. I was the first person to find him, late on a Saturday. But that's not what the report in the papers said. I'd been worried for a while that people were starting to have a damn good idea of who was taking their stuff. All their nice new phones and birthday jewellery, the cash they still left lying around despite the notices in the halls. To this day, I have no idea whether that was true, but it definitely felt real at the time. Admittedly, I was smoking quite a bit of weed back then. I was certainly getting that creepy back of the neck feeling that tells you something bad's coming. And so, when I walked in on Manny, called his name, shook him, realised he'd been dead for hours, then I trotted downstairs to my room. I grabbed a couple of the things I hadn't yet been able to shift. My fence was out of town for the weekend. And a bunch of cash that I had lying around. I went back upstairs and started secreting it around Manny's room, in a sort of inconspicuous, accessible places I would have chosen if I were Manny. Some of the jewellery I rolled up in a sock. The cash went note by note between the pages of the thickest textbook at the end of his shelf. The electronic stuff and the two phones were stowed behind the Daz, Fairy Liquid, Athlete's Foot Cream, Maxi Muscle and Imperial Leather in the cupboard under the sink. As a final touch, I pulled off the signet ring my parents had given me for getting into Bristol and chucked it under the bed. Now I too was a victim. My heart was thrumming like the Edinburgh tattoo, and I was sweating violently. I knew nobody had seen me go into Manny's room, but I'd have to be careful getting out. I didn't think about the horrible slur I was perpetrating against his memory. They say you can't libel the dead. They're wrong. I thought of nothing but saving my own skin and getting back down to my room unseen. If I could make it, that cloud of suspicion I had felt forming around me over the last few weeks, that unpleasant ectoplasm I couldn't seem to shake off or wish away, would vanish overnight. I made it, of course. It was a Saturday night and the halls were deserted. The only people likely to be around at this time were saddos like Manny, cramming for exams. But not in the library, because of course it would be too difficult to snort speed in there. Or the nightbirds like myself, who never went out until the pubs were already shut. I darted into my room. I stripped off my sweat-moistened shirt, washed, changed, picked up the silver business card case that contained my cocaine, checked my watch, lit up a fag, and slouched out. I had a party to get to.